Hi everyone, Wismeril here. Today I want to talk about armor and exactly how much armor you want to have when you will be tackling the Abattoir of Zir. So you have to know that the amount of armor you need depends on the level of your enemies, okay? There is a value that caps out at a 85% damage reduction on physical damage depending on the number that you have for the armor, and this number depends on the level of the enemies you're going to be facing. So thanks to the last developer stream, the campfire chat, we were able to see Filthy Rich playing the Abattoir of Zir tier 1 and tier 10. This has been giving us very important information as to what level the enemies will be in those Abattoirs of Zir. I'm going to make an assumption. I'm going to assume that the scaling of the level of enemies is linear throughout the tiers of the Abattoir of Zir. And if it's not the case, if it's exponential instead of being linear, I will make a new video to give you the correct updated value. Now, in a tier 1 Abattoir of Zir, the level of enemies was 155, just one level above a tier 100 nightmare dungeon, okay? And then after playing a tier 1, Filthy Rich was playing a tier 10, and we discovered that in tier 10, the level of enemies was 157. So that is a +2 jump from a tier 1 to a tier 10. Now, if this is linear all the way to tier 25, it means that tier 20 of the Abattoir of Zir, enemies will be 159 exactly, and tier 25 of the Abattoir of Zir will have enemies being 160 exactly, okay? This is huge information, and it confirms what the devs have been saying in a previous campfire chat, I think one from the BlizzCon, where they were saying they are going to scale the hit points of the monsters really hard from one tier to the other, but they are not going to scale the damage they do very hard from one tier to the other. So having this consideration confirms what I've been saying, okay? We can expect the damage they do to not jump out to crazy amounts from one tier to the other, from one end of the spectrum to the other end, but the HP pool of the monsters gonna scale to the roof, to the moon, or to oblivion, wherever you want to go, okay? So let's assume that the level of monsters is gonna be 160 in tier 25. What can we do with this information? Well, thanks to Xario's spreadsheets, where from the level of monsters, we can know how much armor we need in order to cap out our physical, it's like physical damage reduction if you want. It caps at 85% and it's given by the amount of armor you have. So if enemies in tier 25 of the Abattoir of Zir are level 160, therefore you need 13,633 armor in order to have 85% damage reduction on physical damage, hits from monsters or bleed, which is physical damage too, and to reach the maximum value, which is 85%. So that's one source of information I have. I've also been checking this second spreadsheet that I've been using. It's a different source that has been computed through a lot of testing too, just like Xario did. And this one is, the number is a little bit higher. I think it was, where was it? 10,000. Yeah. This one states that it should be around 13,850 versus the other one that was 13,632. But you know what? I'm gonna do something. I will assume that we want to reach 14,000 just to be on the safe side, so that we have exactly 85%. Maybe you have 86, but it caps at 85. So the magic number you want to remember for now is you want to be aiming for around 14,000 armor in order to max out your physical damage resistance. 14,000 sounds a lot, doesn't it? Well, you can achieve that realistically on the Sorcerer class, which is one of the classes that has the it's most difficult to increase your armor on the Sorcerer class. So I'm going to show you two different calculations. Let's start with, let's imagine in the perfect world, we have perfect gear, right? So all our gear is of eye level 925. So the flat armor you gain from your gear comes from the eye level. Having perfect, where are you there? Having the perfect eye level on helm, chest, gloves, pants and boots will give you 6,000. Wait, something is missing. It should be 6,000. Where did I? Oh, I forgot to upgrade them all the way to level 5. So in a perfect world, you have 925 items from head to toes, and running my build, which is including armor in the Paragon, which is including skulls in the jewelry, while still reaching 75% fire and lightning resistance and 70% cold, poison and shadow. So if you're running my build, you will be having in the perfect world 6,000 armor from your gear, your Paragon board, your Altars of Lilith, strengths, etc. 6,000, okay? And then this 6,000 flat number gets multiplied by the amount of armor that you have on your gear. You can have 4 rolls of up to 29.3% percentage armor. That's a multiplier. All of these are additive together, so 1, 2, 3 and 4. On the amulet you can have 4 times 29.3. So 29.3 times 4 is this. That's the multiplier you get from having those 4 rolls on. That's 4 perfect rolls, and we're having perfect armor at 6,000. On top of that, you know what? I'm not going to input the disobedience, right? I'm going to change it, and I'm going to use the snow veil, which is weaker than the disobedience. But disobedience, you have to be in combat and fully stacked. While snow veil, you just have to press ice armor and that's it. You have your 30%. So that an additional 30% to get your final multiplier of 147.2. You need to add 100 base to have the multiplier and divide by 100. This is the multiplier for your flat armor you get from having 4 perfect percent armor rolls on helm, chest, pants and amulet, okay? So it's going to multiply your 6,000 flat armor by this number. And if we do that, in a perfect world where you're not running the disobedience, but running something weaker, the snow veiled, you have access by just pressing ice armor to more than 14,000 armor, capping you out at 85% when it comes to mitigating physical damage reduction in a tier 25 Abattoir of Zir, okay? Now, we're not in a perfect world, are we? We aren't, I can tell you. So let's imagine instead of having 925, we have 875 eye level on everything we are running. Okay, so let's change that. Here and there. I need to remove this. So our flat armor coming from a Paragon board, it's perfect. You can't change anything. Stats and everything else, it's what it is from the build you're running. But your eye level on your gear is 875. Your flat armor becomes 5,749. Okay. Now we still want to have armor rolls, but you know what? It's not a perfect world. So we are going to have 20%. The range is 18.8 to 29.3. It's realistic that we can arrive to 20% times 4, right? We have 20% on chest, helm, pants, and amulet. So that's 80%. Now, in this example, we are going to be assuming we are running the disobedience not on the amulet, on a regular piece of gear, and it's maxed out. It's fairly easy. I mean, in my experience, I have several of them that are maxed out at 66. So let's assume we are in combat this time, so it's stacked to 66%. This is the amount of percentage armor increase we have from our gear, right? So we need to add 100 base and divide by 100 to get the final multiplier. And our armor, 5749, gets multiplied by this. Now, in an imperfect world where you have 875 high level gear and 20% rolls on your armor with a maxed out disobedience on a non-amulet, non-two-handed staff, while in combat, this is the amount of armor you get, 14,142.54, which is more than the 14,000 I've been talking about to cap out your physical damage mitigation at 85%. Imagine, it's like having here something that says physical resistance, and it depends on the armor you have, and it caps, unlike this one at 70, at 85. Right? So the setup I'm going to be running on day one is going to make use of all that fresh information we have. I'm going to share it on the channel, by the way, and you can expect to have a achievable setup. You don't need the perfect gear, but you need the perfect build, which is what I'm going to give you. And in this non-perfect gear, perfect build, you're going to have 75% fire resistance, 75% lightning resistance, 70% cold, poison, and shadow resistance, and imagine 85% physical damage reduction, plus HP pool of around 15,000, because I'm not expecting you to have max rolls on the values here and there where you would get maximum life roll. So around 15,000 maximum life. And there will be two setups, one with no other uniques. If you don't have your Shaiko, if you don't have the, what's it called, Ahavion, this one, I think the one that are busted for Abattoir of Zir are those two. I have Varian, oh my goodness, and Shaiko, Harlequin Crest. If you don't have those, I'm going to give you a setup that is perfectly fine. It's just that if you have those two, this one will give you a little bit more damage, and the spear, my understanding is we can weapon swap, we can gear swap during an Abattoir of Zir run, because when Filthy Rich opened his skill tree, it shows that he was able to reallocate points on the fly. So I assume it's the same, and I assume, how can I put that? Developers were, lazy. Not lazy, but they reused assets, right? We all do. And they reused the Nightmare Dungeon asset when it comes to coding the Abattoir of Zir. And since you can hot swap gear during Nightmare Dungeons, I believe you can do the same when it comes to Abattoir of Zir. So what I think will be optimal is, here you won't be running that. Here you will have a 30% damage multiplier, and here 25% damage multiplier. You will damage elites until they are close to dying. When they are about to die, you swap your weapon and offhand to this unique staff. You kill them, you get the random shrine effect. When you get the random shrine effect, you re-equip your main hand and offhand to get back those two sweet multipliers of 1.3 and 1.25, while having a artillery shrine or the explosion one or the invulnerability one, you know, busted stuff. So I assume, but anyway, I'll talk about that in a different video. For now, you will have access to two builds, one with other uniques and one without, okay? So for now, the sweet spot, that's the value I want you to remember. The armor, from the information I have and the assumptions I'm making, is 14,000. That's the magic number you want to reach when you will be assembling your Abattoir of Zir build, and it's gonna go all the way to tier 25. Okay. Anyway, this was Wismeril signing off. I'll have a lot more videos coming about the Abattoir of Zir, and I'll share my builds. There are two of them. One for speed farming your Tears of Blood glyph, where the glyph is going to be in the Burning Instinct table, and the other one where for pushing, I believe the glyph will be best in the Static Search table, but I digress as always. This was Wismeril signing off. I hope you guys have a great time and that you are as excited as I am to enter finally the Abattoir of Zir, an endgame activity that is reminiscent of the Diablo 3 times with Greater Rift. I'll see you guys in the next video.